As the world becomes more modern by the day, it is easy to forget the way things once were. Yet animals are much more nostalgic when it comes to their habitat, often living in one or two places for generations. And while humans innately tend to resist change, animals are able to conform to new environments much more quickly. Nature has always worked in mysterious and wonderful ways, constantly adapting to the changing world around it. In the process, some animals will leave their homes for a better life, and some will return to their old ones to carry on the cycle of life. Either way, these incredible creatures are looking for one thing: a place to call home. Hidden in the southwest of Beijing is Fa Yuan Temple. Today, this 1,300-year-old place of worship serves as the campus for the Buddhist Academy of China. Among the many devotees at the academy are students, volunteers, hermits, and of course the cats. The sound of a gong being struck signifies it's time for the midday meal. At the temple, lunchtime is a highly ritualistic event, even for cats. Soon, the monks will gather in a spacious courtyard to have their meals. But they are not the only ones who will be eating today. The small offerings symbolize the Buddha's mercy and his love for all beings, big or small. After the meal, a tap is left on for the cats to quench their thirst. Over the years, the cats and monks have gotten to know each other well and live in absolute harmony with one another. There are cats that live within these hallowed grounds. But why did they decide to make their home here, at Fa Yuan Temple?
在我的印象中，我好像记得我小的时候，我想在野外去找到一只小猫，根本我是看不到的。可现在你随处都可以看到流浪猫。咪咪，咪咪，过来来，咪咪，来，来来来来。咪咪啊。
Liu Tingting is probably the most familiar with the origins of these friendly felines. Most of the cats used to live in and around the nearby courtyards. But when the courtyards were later demolished, the residents moved away, leaving their cats behind.
我刚开始发现它的时候，它是可壮实可胖的一只猫了，没有口炎。因为它们在外头流浪时间久了以后，这个细菌什么的话，就是它的免疫机能可能要弱一点的话，可能就得这个病了。但是它挺配合的。
Unfortunately, stomatitis is a very hard disease to treat, and in some cases incurable.
它那个牙齿，就像我理解的，就会特别疼痛，然后呢，它就是觉得就想用这，它不会说嘛，就想用爪子去抓，但它又抓不了。
It took humans thousands of years to domesticate cats. So when they're suddenly released back into the wild to fend for themselves, it is extremely difficult for them to adapt to the environment. Abandoned cats have an extremely high mortality rate. Starvation, disease, human abuse, and mass reproduction significantly reduce their chances for survival. Yet one thing that cats have to their advantage is their predatory instincts. Stray or not, cats are some of the most efficient hunters in the world. Some might even argue that domesticated cats are even better than their wild counterparts. It is estimated that about 500 million birds are killed by cats every year. While some may say this is the natural course of things, there's no doubt that humans have played a significant role in these numbers. Liu Tingting and other volunteers at the temple have been doing their best to keep these cats fed, healthy, and sterilized.
15年了吧，不停的绝育，不停的，可是流浪猫数量没有减少，就是在一个恶性的循环，不停的抓，不停的绝育，不停的犯规。所以说这个东西，如果人们不停止去抛弃，我们即使做再多，就是根本没有解决什么问题。
While the cats in Fa Yuan Temple seem to have a better life than other strays, they are not immune to misfortune. According to the monks, more than a dozen cats have either died or disappeared this year alone. As winter approaches, a new stray appears at the temple gates. Although no one can say where exactly it came from, it is clear from its healthy appearance that it's newly abandoned. Just as the temperatures begin to drop, an army of birds appear in Beijing. This is a daily occurrence at this time of year. For this murder of crows, it's a daily commute. They set out each morning and return each night like clockwork. At dusk, thousands of crows from every direction gather in the center of Beijing. Much like the daily religious routines performed at Fa Yuan Temple, these birds follow a strict schedule. One by one, they take flight, looking for a safe place in the trees to rest for the night. A little more than 10 hours later, a new day begins. But the crows are nowhere to be found. There are few birds as common yet as mysterious as the crow. One is left to wonder why they have come to Beijing, where they spend their days, or why they decide to gather in the same part of the city every night. Yet perhaps it's not so difficult to understand why they would come here. After all, crows are scavengers, and what better place to spend your days foraging for food than amongst the garbage of Beijing's over 20 million citizens? It's a crow's paradise. Just as dawn is breaking and the streets have yet to fill up, the crows set out for their morning meal. Armed with incredibly sharp vision and an acute sense of smell, these opportunistic birds are more than equipped to find what they are looking for. It's the perfect reward after a long migration. It's a sumptuous feast. Satiated after filling themselves with residential and commercial garbage, they fly back to the city center for the evening. Here on the telephone wires above Wanshou Road, the crows are enjoying the warm air radiating from the subway station. Because of its massive population, Beijing produces a phenomenon known as the urban heat island effect, which makes highly urbanized areas much warmer than the surrounding suburbs. These crows seem to know this and are quite content from their perch high above the busy streets. However, playing host to thousands of unwanted guests comes with its consequences. What was once covered by the blanket of darkness is now illuminated by the light of the sun. These unsightly blemishes are a reminder of why crows have always been treated with scorn and contempt. But what they may lack in civility, they make up for in shrewdness. In fact, crows rank among the smartest animal species on the planet, equal in intelligence to primates. Studies have shown that crows have a remarkable ability to use logic, intuition, and memory to solve problems, and have even been observed employing tools to their advantage. For children, however, crows are just as fascinating as any other bird in the sky. Perhaps to them, crows represent the idea that anything is possible, and that one day they too might be able to soar high above the city. Yet whether it is a grown adult admonishing a thieving crow, or a group of children shouting in excited wonder, the crows pay no mind. They'll be back next winter, no matter what anyone says. It's already March, and surprisingly, the crows have decided to stay in Beijing. For the past winter, they have been eating free meals alongside a special deer in Nanhaizi Park. Zhong Jianyu has been studying the habits of Père David's deer for more than 20 years. With today's work done, he wants to have one more peek at the graceful creatures before he goes home. Tomorrow, they will be embarking on a special migration.
行 ，OK， 行了，等着吧。
The Père David's deer had previously lived along the Yangtze River basin. Then, about a century ago, they were taken to the Emperor's imperial hunting grounds, now Nanhaizi Park in Beijing. Later, after many years of war and flooding, the deer went extinct. Fortunately, in 1865, French missionary Père David had taken some back to Europe with him and sold them to zoos in France and Germany. The 11th Duke of Bedford acquired a few from the Berlin Zoo and began breeding them for the next several decades in Britain. Then in 1985, his grandson donated 22 Père David's deer to China to be reintroduced to their ancestral home in Nanhaizi. For the past 2 decades, Zhong Jianyu and his team have been working hard to bring their numbers back up again. Today, 30 deer will be returned to their original habitat in the Yangtze River basin. However, having spent all their lives in Beijing, their new home will be nothing but a strange and unfamiliar place. First, the deer must be anesthetized so they can be loaded onto the trucks. But that is the easy part. When they wake up from their drug-induced sleep aboard a moving truck, anything can happen. The trip must be made quickly and efficiently, without sacrificing the safety of the animals. At dusk, the deer begin to awake one by one. Climbing atop the truck, Zhong Jianyu takes one more chance to say goodbye. He knows better than anyone how unnatural and dangerous this migration is for the animals.
肯定担心，因为每次输出对于鹿来说是一个生命的考验，每次都是这样。受到这么强的应激，它的抵抗力会下降，那么就会出现这种情况，站不起来，又不能够及时治疗的话，那鹿就酸中毒就会死亡。
2 days later, 28 Père David's deer arrived safely at Po Yang Lake. Although 2 deer were lost in the transport, Zhong Jianyu knows this is just part of the process.
那个落在那个倒的柳树根底下，它就在那躺着啊。
A female deer is having difficulty giving birth to her baby. If her situation doesn't improve quickly, both the mother and the baby will be in danger. Zhong Jianyu decides to intervene.
它是昨晚上生的，时间长了，还没生出来。
Sadly, in the end, they were only able to save the mother. But as one life is lost, a new one is about to begin. Another mother has removed herself from the herd and found a quiet corner to rest in. This is the unmistakable sign of a doe about to give birth. Right now, she is lacking strength. Finally, her fawn is born. Once it can stand on all fours, it must learn how to survive on its own as soon as possible. In just a few short years, it too will leave the park and be released into the wild. This is the reality for animals born into urban environments. Change is always swift, unexpected, and indiscriminate. Most people don't know how or when so many mallards have come to reside at Ho Hai Lake. The tranquil hours of the early morning are the happiest for the local residents. After breakfast, they'll play and socialize with each other. Today, the mallards also seem quite content. But in fact, they spend little time in the water. While they do feed in water, they prefer to rest on shore. However, the banks of Ho Hai Lake are concrete and are either too high or slippery to climb. Before this little floating island appeared, they couldn't rest, dry their feathers, or build their nests on land. This miniature hamlet was built 18 years ago by Chu Shisheng. Ever since then, the mallards have been able to get in and out of the water as they please.
2000年的4月30号，我来到码头呢，是这公司赔得一塌糊涂，给工人的工资都是借钱发的。有一天我在码头啊，看见天空啊，有2只大鸟，擦着水面，盘旋几圈了，落到水里了。为什么我记得那么清楚啊？对生活呀、和对今后啊，未来都没希望。在那时候，这一对野鸭的飞翔，真的对我心灵是一种震撼。人没有翅膀，你飞不起来，但是呢，人的思想不能被禁锢。
To his surprise, more and more mallards began arriving at the lake in the winter.
那年冬天呢，就这对野鸭呀，又招来了30-40对，多的时候把这个小猪排压的都进水了。给野鸭就给这个60只野鸭做一个大点了，4米乘6米。野鸭岛是从那会儿开始叫起来。
Every winter, the waters of Hohai Lake freeze, so Chu Shisheng makes sure to reserve some flowing water for the mallards.
哎呀，昨天晚上气温这么低，水泵都坏了，给我给冻上了。
At times like this, Chu Shisheng will have to take matters into his own hands. Even newly broken ice will freeze again in just minutes, so Chu Shisheng will have to keep paddling until the temperature gets higher.
造浪，这个是波浪就能把这冰慢慢给撅开了。你看啊，看。
Like any house, over time, the little sheds Chu has built will fall into disrepair. But he will always be proud of his efforts.
孩子出于好奇，比赛看谁砍鸭子砍得准，也不能天天的在这儿看着。所以我想呢，给他做成那个卡通一点，就是一个呢做成小房子。等孩子们再来的时候吧，看哎，那个谁给鸭子还盖房子呢？告诉这些孩子们啊，动物它应该有自己的家，像人一样。
Later, Chu Shisheng put up a sign on the island that reads, "Mallards deserve a home." As Mallard Island began drawing more attention, it also brought Chu more pressure and responsibility.
娶老板真的不容易，其中包括了很多甜酸苦辣。 比孩子都亲，那孩子上学什么他顾不上，这可是真的啊！
要不我们那个小姑娘小的时候，人家有个记者问她，说这是你爸爸呀？哎，我们小姑娘说那不是我爸，他是鸭爸爸，5岁时候。
Spring has returned to Hohai Lake. Upon hearing that ducklings were about to be born, Chu Shisheng's daughter has come home.
姑娘，怎么过来的？打车过来的？啊，快来。
When she was young, Chu's daughter spent almost all of her time with her father by this very dock. Now, she is a university student.
天天都照顾鸭子，然后照顾我，一照顾我就生病，然后是照顾我还没照顾鸭子照顾得好，所以就鸭爸爸。
说看2天就感冒了，是吧？
Even though they don't see each other very often, when they are with the mallards, it's just like old times. Because of a sudden drop in temperature, the eggs haven't hatched yet.
突出20多了。
But the father and daughter are still very happy.
你看野鸭岛这现在多少鸭子在孵蛋啊！有人救助了3只小野鸭送来了，好像有1只受凉生病了，还有2只活得好好的呢。咱看看啊。啊！看，
这好。
你看它的眉毛、眼睛黄的。 啊，
这个脖子好细啊！
不是，就是那个小母洲啊，
粘脖子。
粘脖子。角蹼类的动物啊，这个水应该是属于角蹼，环水鱼它们，这是它们的家园。
Some animals come to Beijing to stay, while others are meant to leave. It is no exaggeration that the barn swallow is Beijingers' most loved animal. Near Xidan, construction in a hutong has been suspended because of the arrival of swallows. In this 200-meter-long alley, there are more than a dozen swallows' nests. The swallows are so welcome in the local neighborhood that some have even built their nests inside of homes. In the evening, they'll fly back before the doors close, and then fly right back out as soon as they open in the morning. These 4 baby swallows are 2 weeks old and are frequently left alone while their parents go out to look for food. Unbeknownst to them, their nest has become quite a concern for some of the construction workers.
然后也是无意间那么一抬头，哎，就发现一窝小燕子。因为要整治嘛，所以肯定要动到它，所以就想赶紧给它救下来。
To rescue the swallows, the nest will need to be moved, which could risk separating them from their parents. With construction about to resume, a decision needs to be made quickly. Xia Haisheng from the Beijing Wildlife Rescue Center has come to lend his expertise. After a long discussion, they decide to move the nest. But it has to be close. Otherwise, there is a risk the parents won't be able to find it. As of now, there is still no sign of the swallow's parents. The transfer will only be successful if the nest stays intact. With the nest successfully relocated, now they have to wait for the parents to return.
3-5分钟喂有喂，3-5分钟喂有喂，能找着。能找着。现在就是不知道能不能找着，看看吧。
When the parents arrive around 10 minutes later, they are understandably confused. By the locals' faces, it appears that they are even more anxious than the mother.
哎，过去了，过去了，看见了。哎，好了，好了，好了，没问题。嗯。
Following the cries of her babies, the mother finds her old nest, although not at all where she expected it to be. With the sparrows safely in their nest, the construction resumes. A week later, the baby swallows are able to leave the nest by themselves. Through that time, their neighbors have been watching their comings and goings with loving care. The strange relocation is already forgotten by the swallows, but they will remember the alley and return to it for many springs to come. Over hundreds of years, the swallows have come to share a tacit understanding between themselves and the city around them. However, for those arriving in Beijing for the first time, the city will take some getting used to. The Shaoyue River has been flowing through Beijing since the Yuan dynasty, over 700 years ago. But only until recently has a harlequin duck been found in its waters. For the local Beijingers who walk along this river every day, the arrival of a new bird does not go unnoticed. It is obvious that this one is far from home. It should have been somewhere near the Arctic Circle with the rest of its flock by now, which means it must have gotten lost during the migration. This is the worst kind of situation for a migratory bird. Alone, lost, and with no way to get home. While most people are busy taking pictures with their cameras, one man has decided to capture the bird's likeness in a different way. Zhang Yu is a nature illustrator. While he admits that taking a picture is much easier, he prefers to get to know his subject a little more intimately. Through constant observation, he believes he can understand the subtle messages animals want to convey.
刚开始看的时候，因为一周前了吧，我来拍过一次，因为看的尾巴还是有的呀。虽然感觉那个毛不是特好，但是尾巴还是全的，因为我回看照片也是全的。今天我在弄这个时候，发现那个尾巴只有两边的变成一个叉了，而且两边的都不是很完好。至于是不是常规，是不是正常的，我不知道。但是这个怪呢，人本能反应就能把怪跟非正常的联系在一起。
The missing tail feather has Zhang Yu a bit worried. Will all this human attention put the duck in further danger? He decides to do a little research on his own.
这尾巴真响哎！ 像我们这儿那个，那看来就是一个雌性幼鸟的第2年就是磨损旧羽换上新羽这么一个交替的一个过程，应该是，要不然不能这么完全的很吻合，跟这个世原巨熊就日本这个鸭子也输上。
Sure enough, a few days later, a new feather has grown in, and the harlequin duck is ready to leave. After its sudden departure, there are many questions still left unanswered. Where did it go? Why did it leave its family? And will it ever reunite with them again? Whatever the case, its arrival in Beijing was certainly a brief and unexpected pleasure. It's a fitting example of how fleeting life can be. Suddenly, something strange and beautiful is right in front of us, and then, just before we can truly appreciate it, it disappears just as quickly. With the peculiar visitor gone, the paths alongside the Xiaoyue River become quiet once again. Some animals only appear when the city is going through change. To the north of the Yuan capital city wall relics park, there is a vast green space between Beijing's ancient central axis and its modern high-rises. Here lives the graceful gray heron. Gray herons are naturally timid creatures, so it is surprising that they would choose such a prominent area to raise their young. The Olympic Forest Park is the largest green space in downtown Beijing. Just over a decade ago, it was a village with a 500-year history, named Puddle Village because of the surrounding low-lying fertile land. The environment has also become an ideal home for heron birds. Shortly after winning the bid for the 2008 Olympic Games in 2001, Puddle Village was rebuilt into the Olympic Village, and more than 20,000 people had to leave their homes. Now, the village has become a vast forest and urban space where people and animals live side by side. Although the landscape around them has changed, the gray herons haven't left their home. But raising their young has become more of a challenge, since gray herons are not used to sharing their habitat. But now, several families can be found living in the same tree. Oddly enough, this has led to a more stable family structure. And as long as humans don't disturb them, they can live with the same partner for many years. A month later, some heron eggs have hatched in their lofty nests. Below, another creature has just emerged from a long period of dormancy. The black cicada. These cicadas have been underground for as long as 10 years. The last time these cicadas saw the outside world, it was a very different place. A lot has changed to their habitat, and they will have to adapt quickly to their new environment in order to survive. However, its instincts are still strong. Tonight it will have to climb to the top of a tree to complete its eclosion and emerge from its pupal casing. It's only 10 meters, but for a groggy cicada, the journey is not without its dangers. This one has fallen from the tree and landed on its back. If it doesn't turn over quickly, it will soon become a tasty dinner for ants, and its 10-year evolution will have been in vain. Its once protective shell has now become its prison. Eclosion is a battle for survival. Its greatest enemy, its former self. The incessant chirping of cicadas is at once a romantic song and a prelude to death. The lifespan of a cicada is only about 2 weeks, so they have to seize the time to mate and lay their eggs before they die. In the autumn, their hatchlings will begin the cycle again, burrowing underground to take their long sleep. When they wake up several years later, they'll have to make the same 10-meter climb as their parents did. Yet even if successful, they'll only have the briefest of moments to appreciate the mysterious beauty of the world around them.